Among all the reforms being undertaken by the administration of President Bola Tinubu, the removal of subsidy on petrol has continued to generate debate because of its ripple effect on Nigerians. Arise correspondent Friday Oloko reports on the latest attempt by Vice President Shettima to defend its removal by the federal government.
At the second Chronicle Roundtable, organized by 21st Century Media Services, publishers of 21st Century Chronicle in Abuja, Vice President Shettima says President Bola Tinubu took the decision to remove fuel subsidy to save Nigeria from debt service to revenue ratio, which had grown to 111.8% before he took over power. While describing the anticipated debt crisis as an economic death sentence, he said subsidy was a big elephant in the room that deserved to be killed.
Because we have refused to settle for a placebo, because we know the danger of leaving a life-threatening disease untreated for too long, we are confident that the health of this nation is in good hands. And we do not resort to putting the blame on the previous administration. Leadership is about courage. Leadership is about continuity. Leadership is about taking far-reaching decisions. And before we took charge, the biggest elephant in the room was the question of the fuel subsidy removal. It was an albatross round the neck of the nation 20 to 30 years. We understood why our predecessor made the decision to remove the subsidy, but there was no sufficient budget for it in the fiscal year. The year before we took office, Nigeria's debt service to revenue ratio had grown to 111.18%. The anticipated debt crisis may sound like fancy economic jargon to the man on the street, but I promise to have a meaningful conversation with you. But you and I are in a position to understand how such miscalculations have played out in other countries. It's an economic death sentence.
Shettima regretted that for long Nigeria had endured economic sabotage, leading to the resolve by the Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, Yemi Cardoso, and the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, to take matters in their hands to neutralize the overpowering influence of currency manipulators who had conspired to frustrate reforms. He said federal government is set to launch the Investment in Digital and Creative Enterprises program on May 15, which aims to create 2 million jobs.
They were projecting that the Naira will go to as high as 5,000 to the dollars. Some betted against the Naira. Some borrowed mercilessly from the banks and bought dollar at a cost of 2,000 to the Naira. It's sad, it's disheartening, it's befuddling that some of us do not wish the nation well. Rather that the nation implodes. But let it be known to them, when the rain falls, it doesn't fall on one man's house.
A former Minister of Finance, Samsudeen Usman, called on President Tinubu to set example by sacking ministers who are unable to perform as he had promised during the presidential retreat.
I recall that during the presidential retreat, President Tinubu said to the ministers and other government officials, you either deliver results or get sacked. That's the next test. He needs to make 1 or 2 examples, especially based on these measures of performance that are clear, objective, that have been made available to the Nigerian public.
Speakers at the event are unanimous and optimistic that the ongoing reforms will change the narrative about Nigeria and place the country in a positive map among the Committee of Nations.
Fuel subsidy, unification of the exchange rate, tough decisions were very necessary, according to the Vice President defending his principle on some of the policies that have been heavily criticized in terms of implementation by this administration. Your take on this story, Rufai?
With due respect, ill-thought-out decisions Very ill thought out decisions. You see, the thing about the decision-making process is at first you need to assess the situation. President Tinubu as candidate Tinubu, yes, it was good rhetoric, we'll pull out subsidy. But when he became president, did he take out time to assess the situation before he announced on the very first day that subsidy is gone? Did he do a forensic audit of the NNPC to even know what's going on there? What is even the real problem with the Forex regime? Have we been able to stop the subsidy regime? Have we been able to stop the frivolous activities of oil theft across the borders? Have we been able to nip in the bud, even the problem as regards production that we're now back to now, that from 1.23 million barrels like OPEC says we did last month, now we're slumping even further? Then the currency, devaluing the currency in the name of floating the currency, or probably called the managed float. There is no developing economy that has a dollar-dependent economy that is able to float properly. It's not possible. You see Japan recently, you see what they did with the yen? They had to intervene to be able to bring about some level of sanity to the Forex system. All countries intervene one way or the other. You saw what happened in America when the banks were about to go under, the bank for the tech companies. You saw how Joe Biden intervened. You saw when the stock market was going kaput, I think it was under Hank Paulson then, you saw they set up something called TAF to inject money into the banking system. That's what nations do. But you left our economy to the vagaries of international forces and our Forex to the vagaries of international forces. From over 700 when you came in, the Naira, as we speak today, is 1,300, 1,400. After rallying to about 1,950, as it is today, it's a over 100% devaluation. You hear what businessmen like Aliko Dangote said the other day, that the devaluation hurt the prospect of the economy. Devaluation only works if you are a high net exporter. You're not a high net exporter. Then you took out subsidies, but in a fell swoop, 2-3 months down the line, you discover the policy was wrong. That's why you had to say, we'll hold the price of petrol. These were two policies not well thought out. I think it's incumbent on the government to take responsibility, not now trying to skew the narrative as these policies. You assess the situation at first, you make empirical research-based scenario planning, and then you further now have mitigating effect to what you want to do. Today now we are finding the true value of the Naira. These same people came out to tell us that the fair value of the Naira was 700. Today is 1314, and nobody's talking about that. So did we even know the fair value of the Naira in the first place before we decided to start devaluating and floating a currency that was subject to the vagaries of speculators? And how are we defending? We are putting a lot of liquidity through hot money. It's a temporary situation anyway. Our treasury bills at an all-time high. You can see people are leaving the stock market, coming to treasury bills. But hey, we need to pay back on those interests. The interest setback alone is about $1 trillion. We've not been able to get the FDIs. Look at the laughable situation with Maersk. Look at the story yesterday. Qatar said they're not coming to invest. All the talks with Saudi Arabia, 14 billion with India, we've not seen FDIs. Probably the ray of hope is front page newspaper this day today. Maybe when that Seplat and Mobile deal finally sails through, we'll be able to get some more production up.
Okay, here it is. For the benefit of the ignorant and the poorly educated, let us note the following points that I will lay out. What Vice President Kashim Shettima was saying yesterday was that the Tinubu administration inherited a badly managed economy where debt service ratio to revenue was 118%. 118, I think. And secondly, he said that the Tinubu administration had to take hard decisions to reverse the dangerous trend into which the Buhari administration had placed the Nigerian economy. One of those hard decisions that they had to take was fuel subsidy removal. Now, President Buhari announced fuel subsidy removal, PIA, all of that. But he didn't have the courage to go further. Perhaps because he wanted his party to return to power. Perhaps because he was just playing politics. Perhaps because he didn't want that to be on his score sheet as a Nigerian leader. He had been military head of state, he had been minister, he had been civilian president. But what Vice President Kashim Shettima was saying yesterday was that, look, Tinubu had to take the hard decision. He was hinting at courage, bravery. He didn't use those exact words. And that Tinubu took the courage to say, look, this has to be done because this is within the province of the law. Otherwise, according to him, Nigeria will have faced economic death. He admitted in that same occasion yesterday that it looks harsh, but is the only path to economic recovery that they could think of. What we can argue about is that, okay, courage, bravery, grass, Lagos City boy, you can do it. I've done it in Lagos, I'll do it in Nigeria. The questions we can raise is to say, okay, if this gragra worked in Lagos, is it working in Nigeria? What effect has it had? Those are the issues that we can talk about. Now, Vice President Kashim Shettima at that Nigerian Chronicle event yesterday, I think that was the event, also said they are not blaming the previous administration. No, actually, what they have been doing is to blame the previous administration. You know, that rhetoric, I don't understand that. They are saying, and he restated it yesterday, emphatically, that the Buhari administration failed. But he has also asked Nigerians to be patient. Everybody is telling us to be patient. We can't get fuel to buy. Cost of rice is up. Gari, which my wife likes to eat, is expensive, putting Ruben Abati in a very difficult situation. But I think that the Vice President was right when he made the point that Nigeria is subsidizing the consumption of fuel across West Africa. Look, all this storytelling, whether from the Vice President or from the President himself, what Nigerians want is just result. Nigerians want an improvement. You can go to 1,000 events, seminars, either in Nigeria or in Poland or wherever, the outer end of the world, wherever. Nigerians are not impressed with talk. When it is possible for your husband to give you 10 million,
okay,
yeah, per month.
A month?
Yeah, you will see it. You say, this Nigeria is doing well now. My husband is giving me 10 million naira per month.
I'm looking
right
to that.
So that is the Nigeria that we want to. And when a time comes when our wives can come home and say, our daddy, I'm giving you this, I'm giving you that. That's when Nigeria is working. So Tinubu has said he's not giving excuses. Okay, if he's not giving excuses, we will know when we see it in our personal lives. Not when you are going to the office in the morning, your wife is quarreling over diesel money, quarreling over... we should reduce this thing to the level of the human being. And all these people in the studio looking at me. Why are you people looking? You people should be careful. We are all in this Nigeria together. Okay? I'm not going to push your case on Arise News. Please, stop looking at me. Concentrate on your work.
All right, Dr. Bati, I love the human angle in terms of making it very real, because the situation in Nigeria is absolutely real. It affects every single person, top to bottom, you know, rich, poor. I don't know if there's a middle class anymore. There's some merit to what the Vice President said, Vice President Kashim Shettima, in terms of how shambolic the previous administration left the economy. We were in serious trouble. And in defense of that, he had said that the president had to make some tough decisions, and leadership takes courage. However, I'd like to center on what the United Nations Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator in Nigeria, Mohammed Fail, said. He had talked about the fact that despite the need to make certain decisions or to take certain policy directions, there was also a greater need to ensure that whilst we wait for the effect of these tough decisions to materialize, we cannot kill the people in the process. There has to be some safety net provided to cushion the effect on Nigerians, because Nigerians are suffering. I don't have to say it, you don't have to say it. Everyone can see it, everyone can feel it. And so leadership is for the people. Decisions, policy directions, everything that government is doing is supposed to be for the benefit of the people. And we hear them when they say that we will have to endure in the short term, make sacrifices in the short term. But may that sacrifice not lead to chaotic outcomes, especially in terms of Nigerians even losing their lives in the process. We often talk about childbirth or Nigeria is in labor, but what we often say as well is that give some relief so that at some point the baby and the mother can come out alive both at the same time. I'd like to go back to some of the promises made by this administration, especially in July of last year, post the removal of fuel subsidy and the unification of the exchange rate, all in a bid to ensure that Nigerians at least had some form of relief whilst this change, much needed, painful transition to a more stable economy was taking place. And the thing is, it's not about the fact that this government had to make tough decisions. It is that following the tough decisions, promises were made, and very often those promises were audio. We haven't seen the manifestations of these promises. And so that is why the people do not trust when the government or the leaders say that, oh, we are in this, we're trying to sacrifice, we're helping you. Can you help the people in the process so that the midwifing of this new Nigeria we're looking forward to would not kill Nigerians themselves? I'll highlight a few of them just to remind this government that unfortunately they haven't made good on their promises. I'll just give me just a few more minutes, just one more minute to do this. First of all, the president had promised in a speech in July 2023, in terms of addressing food insecurity, that they were going to release, to ensure that staple foods was available and affordable for Nigerians, and they're going to provide 200,000 metric tons of grains from strategic reserves. This, I don't know what the outcome of that has been, because food prices have kept on skyrocketing since last year. We talk about the interventions for small businesses. He said between July 2023 and March of this year, 2024, 75 billion naira would be invested in macro, small and medium enterprises to help to support these businesses. I don't know what the outcome of that has been. So unfortunately, we do not see these things. Affordable education, we're still having conversations around student loan. So you can understand when the people say that we hear you, tough decisions need to be made, but don't kill the Nigerian people, and make good on the promises to ensure that Nigerians are able to bear the consequences of a failed previous administration and to give hope for the future. Move on to our next story. The Nigeria Police Force says it has arrested the suspected mastermind of the Abuja-Kaduna train attack in 2022. A helicopter has also been deployed to escort trains on the Kaduna-Abuja route, providing aerial support for ground troops. Arise correspondent Nisi Gabriel reports.
Case on the attack on the Abuja-Kaduna train of March 28. These three were involved in the attack. They took part in the operations, launched attack on the train, killed some innocent Nigerians, caused injuries on some of them, carted away their property. We made a promise that we will get them. And because of carrying out series of investigations on some of the activities, we were able to arrest these three. As young as this one is, this bandit, he controls a camp. And this man too controls a camp. This one has confessed to have in possession more than 40-something AK-47 rifles, as young as he is. So it's for you to know that it's not what security agencies can do alone. Who is sponsoring them? Who is procuring these arms for them? How did they get these arms? We need to work on all these things.
The Nigerian police is parading suspects apprehended for various crimes in Kaduna and surrounding areas. The police relations officer is overseeing the process, reaffirming the force's commitment to clamp down on fabricators and suppliers of local weapons in the country.
We are beaming our torchlights on some of these agents who fabricate, who procure, who transport arms and ammunition to them in their various camps. And this is one of them. Imagine where 60 rounds of AK-47 ammunition land. You know, the owner of those camps are fortified.
Among the suspects is Abubakar Umar, 20 years old, who was caught in Zaria with 460 rounds of AK-47 ammunition hidden inside his stabilizer box. The police say he planned to deliver the ammunition to an individual for onward transmission to a notorious bandit in Zamfara. The arrested gun fabricator says he went into the business for self-defense due to persistent bandit attacks in southern Kaduna.
Where did you learn it? I didn't learn it. It's a gift. I'm doing it that time because of attack. Kagoro, Kafanchan, that time, the attacker used to come in the night. There's no any soldier, nothing. So we are doing it to give the vigilante group. 3
more suspects involved in the Abuja-Kaduna train attack were also paraded. Meanwhile, the force PRO says a helicopter has been deployed to serve as an escort for trains using the route, providing aerial support for the ground troops.
We expect that very soon we are going to embark on night area patrol. The IGP has just procured lenses for our pilots to move at night, and we are going to have night operations very soon.
According to the police, from the beginning of the year to date, police recovered over 28 stolen vehicles, over 200 harmful weapons, and rescued 158 kidnapped victims. Nisi Gabriel, Arise News, Kaduna.
Well, certainly good news here, Rufai. Let's hope we can build on these wins. Your take on this story?
I mean, very good news. Better late than never. 2 years after very dastardly, hurtful killings that happened there on that Abuja-Kaduna train, my mind can never, ever go off Dr. Chinelo. And today, I'd like to pay tribute to her because it's a dear story to me. I particularly know Dr. Chinelo's father. You know, he had been a listener on the other platform I was for so many years. And I just hope with a story like this, probably you can find some healing and grace and peace in your heart, knowing that the people that did that did not just go scot-free, and the authorities will catch up on them. So I want more investigation to be done. The full course of the law should be taken. We don't want a case where they put them in prison now and the next thing we hear of a jailbreak, through rain or anything, because it just makes mockery of the justice system. They should be speedily charged to court. The other part of that story that hurts me is the fact that we have a thriving gun ecosystem. And I know the police is working hard at this, and the authorities and intelligence agencies to be able to root out all of these gun fabricators. But if we can do more work to intensify efforts, you know, to be able to stop people like this. Thirdly, aerial, reconnaissance and aerial aid as trains move in that area. I mean, it's a welcome development, but it's also a sad one that we're going to add to the logistical cost of that route. I think the question we should ask is, I remember Rotimi Amaechi was minister then. There was supposed to be a tracking device on the rail line that they ought to have installed. I think that's still a part of the long-term solution, apart from an aerial helicopter movement for every train ride. It's a good one. It's a welcome development. It's a palliative, but it's in the long run how sustainable it is, and how can we also have DICON to be able to, morph drones to be able to do that work. So we don't just keeping helicopters in the sky for every train movement and all of that. What if development comes to that area and we increase the number of routes and we're having trains leave every 30 minutes or 40 minutes off Are we going to be deploying helicopters for every 30 minutes or 40 minutes? We need to be able to have a sustainable way through other intelligence mechanism. And we need to be able to have a very strong reconnaissance to be able to tap on security agents in the time where there's crisis and respond to that. I mean, these were the other people also fingered in the Greenfield University attacks and all of that. We just want justice to be done. Kudos to the police, I should say.
Right, kudos to the police.
Okay, the police have come forward to say they've arrested 2 years later. After the event, Ibrahim Abdullahi, also known as Mandi, was the mastermind of the attack on the Kaduna-bound from Abuja train in 2022. Now, yes, it's good to commend them, but it has taken them 2 years. 2 years. There are persons who may well ask, why 2 years? Because from the testimony of Ibrahim Abdullahi himself, they've been in operation since then. They attacked Greenfield University. They've been doing other things around the place. The question is about how proactive is the Nigerian security establishment. And when I use the word security establishment, I use it advisedly, which means not just the police having the responsibility, other persons, other agencies are covered within that spectrum. However, I think Olumiwa Adejobi, the spokesperson for the police, raised a number of questions. I'll reduce them to two. He asked the question, who is sponsoring them? And how did they get the guns? It seems to me that those are the two questions that will need to be addressed by the Nigerian security establishment. How did these people get the guns? They have more bullets than the Nigerian police. They have better guns than the Nigerian police. And all these guns, these small arms, light weapons, proliferation, we are told all the time, we're holding meetings with neighboring African countries. But these small weapons and small arms and light weapons, they go through the Nigerian borders. You have a country where the security establishment is under-equipped, and bandits and insurgents are over-equipped. This is the problem with this security challenge that we are facing. So I think the significance of this is not about the Nigerian police parading people, looking for media publicity and commendation. No, the big issue that the government still has to address as they attempt, as Nuri Badu was telling us the other day, that they are revising the national security strategy, is to deal with the challenge of that situation whereby bandits, insurgents, criminals are better equipped than the Nigerian state. Yeah, I hear it all the time. The state has the monopoly of power, of force and all that. No, the Nigerian state has lost that strategic advantage. And that is why we have security problems from all over the country. So a man comes, he says, I am the man who has been terrorizing Kaduna, Abuja highway. In a country that has a government, it speaks to the failure of governance.
Absolutely. Now, when you look at the reason behind crime, you can look at the immediate and the remote causes of it. Looking at the footage of the apprehended criminals, it is saddening to see from their faces just how young they are. And it is just mentioned that in terms of the government failing, we failed our young people. Yes, there might be a number of rationales behind why people would opt for crime, but a lot of times we look at the fact that our young people are not properly engaged. What is our unemployment? What are our unemployment numbers? We don't have alternatives to present to them, even if some of them want a better chance at making life for themselves. We have a country that is blessed with a youth population, over 70% under 30, but unfortunately, largely, most of them left not engaged. And so it opens them up to be enticed into a life of criminality and crime. I wish you could show the footage again and just see the young people that could be the future of Nigeria, could add some benefit to Nigeria. When you look at a lot of these criminals who are being apprehended, many of them are young. Many of them are young boys and young girls. That very largely this nation has failed because there is a lack of provision for alternatives for a standard life and standard living. We're looking at the situation of things right now, and it is a no-brainer, the relationship or how poverty levels increases criminality. We must look at these issues. It's not just about people sponsoring. For there to be sponsors or for you to have willing people to entice, there must be something that's compelling. And if you listen to the stories of a number of these young people, some of them are pressured into a life of criminality. We have to state the fact. And so in dealing with this issue, because prevention of course is best, we must also look at the bigger reasons why young people are more prone to a life of criminality here in Nigeria. I think it's very important to mention that it's saddening to see the young men there who were apprehended, but good job for the police, and I'm hoping that this would also serve as a warning to others who might want to attempt to go into that. But thank you very much for that report, and thanks to the police who say well done when it is due. Move on to our final story this morning. Africa's global bank, United Bank for Africa, UBA PLC, has held the graduation ceremony of its 2024 Graduate Management Accelerated Program, where about 400 graduates were inducted into the UBA family after a 6-month hands-on work and learning experience. The Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria's accredited program, adopted from the globally recognized graduate training program, is aimed at building capacity for fresh graduates who are trained as professionals for accelerated career growth to leadership and key positions. The group chairman, United Bank for Africa, Tony O. Elumelu, while decrying the state of unemployment in Africa, encouraged the graduates to let their success inspire others to greater success. Arise News correspondent Omobolanle Adesuyi tells us more.
It was a special occasion for the GMAP trainees from across UBA's 19 African subsidiaries after completing an intense capacity building program combining learning with on-the-job training experience garnered while rotating across the bank departments and units. Speaking on the objectives of the program, Group Chairman UBA Tony O. Elumelu stressed the importance of prioritizing human capital development, adding that the program is UBA's way of creating employment by equipping the youth for the future.
Never spend your time in pursuit of money and material things. Please note, the ultimate essence of banking is service. I would like also let you reflect on your time on the GMAP program. Remember, the path of success is seldom linear.
In our continent, our biggest challenge is how to engage our youth, how to empower our young ones, because a continent of young people. And that is why people say that we are use our demography to our country as a continent has become the big problem for all of us. At UBA, identifying these young Africans of 500, bringing them to the center, to the UBA Academy, training them, equipping them for the task and the future ahead.
I gained interest into banking and finance in late 2022, so I decided to give it a shot at UBA, being my bank for more than 10 years now. So I gave it a shot, and here I am today. I just give glory to God.
The highlight of the event was the presentation of awards to trainees who distinguished themselves during the course of the program. The graduates then proceeded to pick up their graduation scrolls. Omobolanle Adesuyi, Arise News.
I think it's fantastic to see this story follow the previous story, especially as I just talked about engaging our young people and maximizing the potential of the young here in Nigeria. And this is something I must say Mr. Tony Elumelu has done consistently through his foundation and now through the UBA program, graduate training program. Look at the overall best student, a young face and a promising Nigerian. That's what we want to see more of. Rufai, do you want to say something?
I mean, pretty much it segues into a lot of the things he has done. Even when you look at the Tony Elumelu Empowerment Forum that he does with a lot of, young people and entrepreneurship and all of that, is Tony Elumelu Foundation. And this graduate program. I mean, graduate programs are very important because, after you go through the rung of the university, then there's a need for retooling. Most of them do not have the prerequisite market skills. The university does not teach you all of that. They just teach you a curriculum, that is in tandem with the general knowledge as regards various aspects and various areas. So courses like this are very rigorous and all of that. And I'm talking from a vantage point of somebody that I had done some consultancy where I had even done the CIBN exam to be able to train in graduate training schools of banks in Nigeria, and I've done, for various academies, and banks that I have trained in, which I had done. So you need a lot of retooling, and this also does a lot as regards teaching them about culture, which is really very important. Because you see, what really makes a workplace is culture. Apart from the numbers and everything, if you don't get the culture right, you can lose everything in no time.
Culture will eat.
Culture will eat strategy for breakfast, like I'll normally say. Also, this also teaches them about a great sense of resilience. How to be resilient in the time of difficulty and all of that. And this also gives them skills for life. Because not all of them will end up in that particular bank, but some of the things they will learn there will also help them. And fourth, this will also help them to be able to further build a better banking ecosystem in Nigeria.
Absolutely.
And given to the banking ecosystem, it's grown over the years. It wasn't what it used to be before in the 80s, when we finally liberalized the banking sector and private people can get licenses and things like that. So this is a welcome development.
Okay, I would like to talk about Tony Elumelu, a man who has done well within the financial sector and who has come up with a philosophy called Afri-capitalism. Afri-capitalism simply means, look, you can use capital to create opportunities for other people. And that probably, as I've said before on this program, will be Tony Elumelu's biggest legacy in the path that he has chosen. Now, he also has a body called Tony Elumelu Foundation. That Tony Elumelu Foundation is also propelled by the philosophy of Afri-capitalism. What we have seen in this particular instance, the story that has just been reported, is Afri-capitalism in action, a linkage between the Tony Elumelu Foundation and also the Union Bank of Africa, which he leads. Now, what have they done? They've trained young people from 6 African countries, not from Nigeria, from 6 African countries on the training job. And they have been given opportunities, which is consistent with Tony Elumelu's philosophy of Afri-capitalism, which is now a subject in Harvard University about nurturing talent and leadership, equal opportunity for all. A bank that has branches in Nigeria, the US, the UK, France, UAE, doing retail, corporate, and commercial banking. What is the lesson of this? I think the significance of all of this is not just about these young persons, 398 of them who have been given opportunities. The lesson is about how the private sector can help to grow capital. It is about how private sector can help the growth process that governments talk about. And when we talk about private sector involvement in the growth process, this is a good example. I hope it's an example that other capitalists in Nigeria and elsewhere in Africa will emulate and support, and also show that they are committed not to profit, because every time we discuss profit here, that they are committed to the building, the growth, the development of the human community. That's what I think the Tony Elumelu example represents.
Well, congratulations to Tony Elumelu, Oliver Alawuba, the United Bank for Africa, UBA family, and of course all the 400 newly inducted graduate trainees.